Bonjour monsieur. Ça va bien? Et vous? Moi aussi.
All right, Grandpa, you're just gonna look at me. You okay? You seem a little tired today, you alright? You want some coffee?
No, I'm fine.
You good? Alright. Yeah, this might take
I got up a little early this morning. That's when.
What time did you get up?
Probably about 7:30, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I got me a shower, got cleaned up, got dressed. And then your mom didn't like the clothes I had on, some of them, so she modified my dress.
Everything's rolling. Steve, you're good over there?
Oh yeah.
Alright, man. So, Grandpa, this is the final interview.
Okay.
We're just gonna hit probably everything we've done plus some extra stuff just so I'm covered all in. So, let's just get into it. So, the first thing is an intro again of just your date of birth.
Oh, my date of birth was 2/23/25, 1925. And when I was a youngster, I had just my brother and I. And then 10 years down the line, my sister was born, so that made 3. We were living in Schnitzelburg, which was German working class. I'm a German descendant. My grandfather, who came from Germany, born in Baden-Baden, Germany, and arrived over here back in the 1800s. My dad was a carpenter during that phase of the Depression. He could lay concrete block, he could lay brick, he was like a general contractor in a sense. But he never belonged to a union, he always just did this on his own. My dad was struggling with trying to get jobs of work because nobody had any money to pay him. I remember my dad a few times had built a few places on the back of people's yards to make homebrew, bootleg stuff. And then they would get together, a bunch of the men would get together and drag the kids with them, and it was more like a social hour then. It was pretty good times.
Do I believe that history is written by the victors? It's difficult. I think no, ultimately, but maybe at the beginning, yes. I think as the onion begins to be peeled, the truth comes out on all sides. My name's Helen Patton, and I'm the granddaughter of General George S. Patton, Jr., who is famous for having led the Third Army to certain victory and liberated Europe. I've grown up with this hero who made the broad sweeps towards liberation, and yet I see the regular GI, and it's necessary to hold the commanders and those grunts that worked under him equally in our esteem. And George is so very special in his own humanity, so he really represents this bookend to my grandfather's work, if you can picture that.
The United States was gearing up after the attack on Pearl Harbor. It was a go. I mean, everyone was involved. So it made you feel kind of left out if you didn't get in there and do what you thought was right. I was drafted sometime in May of that very year that I turned 18. When we got the word that we were going to be boarding a ship to cross the English Channel, we knew that the airborne was going to be flying in before we went. And that was sort of the glory group, you know, so that when we landed, we thought, well, we're just coming in to clean and mop up everything. But we found out that it wasn't that way. We got into a lot of the stuff that was going on too. We'd set up the motor pool there, and Sergeant Elmore told me he got orders to go on patrol now. Okay, so I went and got the Jeep. We hopped in there and I drove on, and we went to a little bit of a high knoll after doing some patrolling around the area, and saw the battle zone, and we watched the aircraft, which was the P-47, which was a fighter bomber. It's a huge aircraft. I mean, and the guy would be bombing and strafing at the same time he was making his run. And so what was happening, they were actually getting off their mark and actually bombing and strafing some American soldiers as well. Because where they had to get in there and do their job, they wasn't exactly right on it. I think they called it Operation Cobra. It was, you know, it was a fiasco, more or less.
It's not too bad, right? I don't need to see Steve's ugly mug, but we might have to be honest. You sit behind me. Yeah, we'll just get the whole thing. Yeah, that's
See the whole gang,
see
right?
the whole gang. Alright, and our recordings. Go. You got the directions?
No GPS on
You gotta give, well,
it. We're following, but
Raphael.
yeah.
No. I think it's recent. Shit, Grandpa, you tell us how to go, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a little while since I've been over these roads. And they probably might even be a few of them changed. Germans might have been here, you know, moved some of the signs.
Grandpa, when you were over here, you know, 75 years ago,
Yeah.
I have come to the understanding that military police has a little different perception than, you know, other sectors of the military. Is there anything?
Well, we were considered combat MPs when we were here.
511th Military Police Battalion.
And we were an entire unit of military police, and we were taking care of the police duties of all of these different areas that we had captured. We had to go to wherever they sent us. I don't care if they sent us to the front line, we were there.
Blitzkrieg in German means lightning war. Blitzkrieg. Lightning war. Okay? Now, with the Germans, they were too far away across the English Channel to attack England. So they used the air power to come in and bomb, not every night, but a lot of nights. It was very scary to hear one of the buzz bombs. The V1 buzz bomb is like a 2,000-pound bomb with an engine on it and little wings stuck out on the side of it. And it would be lobbed up over the English Channel and down into England. And you'd hear that thing. Even though they're miles in the sky, you could still hear them. And all of a sudden it would stop. And you had absolutely no idea where it was going to land.
Normally, they didn't do a lot of training of MPs. They just pull the biggest guy out of the outfit and give him his helmet and his bizarre and say, you're an MP. But they told us, he said, this is the thing of the past. You have got to use diplomacy when you're dealing with the people.
One of my friends who was in the service with me and also a Kentuckian, fellow Kentuckian, we were watching some children chatter and carry on in French. And he asked me, he said, "George, what do you think about us trying to learn to speak a phrase a day, maybe?" He said, "I believe if we did that, we might learn something of this language." I could speak enough French that I was able to make extra money by selling cigarettes. Voulez-vous une cigarette? Oui, j'avais a cigarette. I could buy them for $1 a carton and sell them for $10 a carton. I'd make pretty good money off of them.
Head to Goovy. Do you mind maybe just giving a little backstory about Goovy?
Well, it was a small village, as I recall. It's probably much bigger now than what it was back then, but we were sent from Bastogne to Goovy. There was a big ration depot there at the railroad station, and we were designated to take care of that, the traffic and all moving in and out, flowing through there. They had one little hotel there, a small hotel, and it was right on the main road, which was called Rue de la Guerre. And there was no more room for me. That's how come I got a billet with a family. Joseph and Ida Lalamonde and Gabby. They put me up, and that was better than a foxhole. So I appreciated that very much.
Oui, bonjour. Je vais me présenter rapidement. Je suis Christian Gabriel. Je suis né en 1950. Je suis originaire du petit village de Gouvy, situé dans les Ardennes belges, à la frontière entre la Belgique et le Grand-Duché de Luxembourg. Ma première rencontre avec Georges, la fois, c'était en décembre 2018, à l'occasion des commémorations de la bataille des Ardennes à Bastogne. Il parlait de mes grands-parents, Joseph et Ida l'Allemand, de ma mère, Gabriel l'Allemand, et il a raconté tout son séjour. Et apparemment, il avait gardé d'excellents souvenirs, et c'est surprenant parce qu'il racontait ça comme si c'était hier.
Well, Gabby, she would want to go out in the evening, and she'd ask me if I wanted to go with her, and we would go to some cousins or some neighbors or someplace in the neighborhood around where the town was. We would find a piano and they would sing songs and enjoy the group. I had confidence in my French. I was able to communicate, and that made it a whole lot easier for me. When you have confidence in being able to communicate, you don't have a lot of problems. Oh, I remember one of the songs that we used to sing. Nous sommes pendre notre linge sur la ligne Siegfried. We shall hang out our laundry from the Siegfried line. That was one of the songs we used to sing. It was kind of a wonderful experience for me because I was just a teenager then, basically. I enjoyed being able to go out and do things like that, especially during the time of war. Well, the Battle of the Bulge actually started out after we captured the cities and towns of Belgium and were sitting at the German border. And Hitler decided he was going to make a last-ditch push to surround us there in Belgium. He used these monster tanks that he'd built up, and unbeknownst to us, he put them on rail cars. He had some of them, the lighter ones, were probably using fuel to get to where they were trying to start the bulge going. But then later on, he used these monster tanks that he'd built up to hopefully take it all the way to the seacoast and split the northern section and the southern section apart. They're in Belgium.
The Battle of the Bulge was important because it was so incredibly hot strategically. This was the linchpin, and it was secured, those crossroads, with George Merz right there, you know, directing traffic.
Our unit, we had all kinds of different intersections that we were assigned to, little villages and stuff, just one or two houses. And we were assigned to those places. And the Germans, they were pushing in and they were surrounding us, which that became a bulge in our defense of those cities and towns that we had captured. The front could actually overrun us, and it did up in Belgium. Because I was overrun in that little town of Gouvy. They overrun us, and I could look down the rail line and see the Germans were unloading their equipment off of them rail cars, big old tanks coming off of that thing, them artillery pieces. And we were lucky we had a Jeep that we could move out of that place. Because you had to avoid as much as you can being captured. Otherwise, you wasn't doing your job very well. If you was captured, you couldn't do your job. The Germans would be coming up. We'd have to move into either Bastogne, get into Bastogne, or go to some other place that was more of a safe haven that we could stay in. They were shelling Bastogne at the time I was there. And that's when I got my Bronze Star, because I stayed on my post, did my job, what I was supposed to do. When the sergeant come up the top out of the basement, come up and saw me there, and he said, Merz, he said, my God, where you been at? I said, I've been here directing traffic. He said, shook his head, and he went down the basement, and he told the guys down there, he said, well, I'm writing him up a citation. So I got the citation for the Bronze Star.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were shelling then. Even when he come up, he got it too. He got the Bronze Star as well.
There is a particular maxim that's attributed to my grandfather. Fear kills more people than death. It could be very simple. A soldier saying, yeah, I'm gonna go. I gotta do this. I can do this. And they knew, I think deep down inside, what it might cost them. And they were not afraid, ultimately not afraid.
Here, we're coming through Houffalize now.
This is Houffalize?
Yeah, this is Houffalize. Look at the structures around here. Look at this, Houffalize.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's cool.
And the Germans were unloading their crap out from this rail line there, see it?
Oh, this is where the Germans came in? They used that rail line?
Yeah, they were using that rail line, yeah. See, Germany's right over, well, the Siegfried line is right there. Germany lost a lot of people, you know what I mean, with the Russians and the Americans and the British and everybody else. They just blew hell out of the people. And about all they had left to do was to go to work and rebuild. And so we went through Germany. Most of them would put out a white flag to make sure that, you know, they wasn't going to be attacked. The average German was tickled to death that the war was going to be over for them. They're so thankful that we did what we did because they're free now. They don't have to put up with Hitler. I was in Augsburg, and we had set up a military police unit there. The young girl came running up to our station, help, help. Her mother was in trouble. This young child, she led us then to her front door to the apartment where they were at. It was on the second floor, and he had the door closed, and so when we got there, we run in on him, and the door, when it swung open, I could see that he had a pistol. My partner, he threw a rifle in his chest. I got the gun from him. He knew he was dealing with the military police, so he succumbed to what we told him to do. It was a scary moment for us, but the lady was saved, and the child was very pleased that we were able to stop the attack. And when I took the gun off of him, I never turned it in, and this gun is going to be willed to my grandson, Steve.
Do I think that we over-romanticize World War II? I would say yes. And there's really probably one basic reason why. It's because in a larger sense, we've had a really happy ending in that we've become friends with our former enemies. And I would like to see that happen for subsequent conflicts as we look back. It would be great if the World War memory work could set the bar for reconciliation in the future.
And I recall on the 70th anniversary, I heard them play the national anthem for the Belgians, the Luxembourg, and the French. And then all of a sudden I said, well, I don't know, I don't guess they're going to play the German national anthem. All of a sudden I heard the German national anthem, and they played it. And that was at the 70th anniversary of the Battle of Bulge.
How'd that make you feel to hear that?
Made me feel real good because I was expecting, I was kind of anticipating that they would do it because, you know, those were the countries that were involved in it and the people who were involved. See, the American people have not been through exactly what those people over there have been through to understand what it is to be shackled with another government taking over your government and not being able to get up and come out of it without help. And so we were the help that they needed to get out of that. The German people were not that bad, but they just made a bad choice. And the regular German soldier was just doing his job as he was told to do. But the SS troops were not. They were trained to be German all the way, I guess. One time, we took a prisoner in, and he was an SS trooper, and he said, "You might as well shoot me." And because of the soldiers' demeanor, we had a sergeant that he was ready to just shoot him. I was a private first class. I didn't have any rank, but the idea was I had to step in as a voice of reason at that point in time. Sergeant, he stood up, took his gun, pointed at him. I said, "Sarge," I said, "sit your ass down." I said, "You don't want to get in that kind of trouble." I wasn't going to let him shoot the guy. Not while I'm still watching. You don't shoot prisoners. We don't. Not American soldiers don't.
Amerikanischer. Zigaretten?
Nein. Nein, Nick. Ist das dein Stirnraum?
Yeah. He can't speak.
No.
It was smart to calm down your superior, keeps the peace amongst the prisoners.
I'm not looking for your approval. Just doing what's right.
Thinks that some of your countrymen would say it was right to shoot all of us dead, right here in the dirt.
Well, maybe some, but not me.
You must be German. It's where you use your head over your gut. But it does not always lead in the right direction. To judge us?
It's not my place to judge. It's for the man upstairs.
I'm not a real hero. The only heroic thing that I did was stand on an intersection in Bastogne. The real heroes of those battles are still there. They've never been able to get up and get out of there and come back home. They fought a battle that they won, but didn't know they ever won it.
George's story is so important because he represents the soldier's role that should be chivalrous, upstanding, should be part of a team that liberates without conquering, that leaves things in a better place than they found them, and then goes on with their dignified life. And I do believe it may be uniquely American. We are the custodian of that upstanding behavior that we are so well known for, but that the whole world can learn and share, and maybe even in some cases in the future do a better job. And then we'll watch and we'll learn, and it'll get better and better.
Grandpa, when you were over here, 75 years ago,
Yeah.
were you thinking about the future at all? Is it, I don't know, like what's the, I have my own feelings about being your grandson here, and how it's, like me and Steve went to a bar last night, or 2 nights ago, and people were thanking us. And we kept saying we didn't do anything. But the sentiment in the town is still so strong. Pro-America-wise, and it threw me for a loop, like...
All you had to do is say, I'm here with a veteran, and you're on top of the world. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that have met me before, and if they see a picture of me, they know who in the hell I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not any guesswork. They know who I am.
À 94 ans, George Merz était de retour à Gouvy ce mardi. Ce vétéran américain a séjourné plusieurs mois dans le grenier de cette maison rue de la Gare, où habitait la famille Lallemand.
Même si ceux que j'ai connus ne sont plus là aujourd'hui ou ne sont pas capables d'être là aujourd'hui, on continue à m'honorer. Je suis vraiment très content qu'il reste quelques personnes qui me connaissent et avec qui je peux communiquer. C'est vraiment bien. Surtout le fils de la jeune fille de la maison, Christian Gabriel.
Les Américains sont arrivés à la première libération de Gouvy et il a séjourné jusqu'au début de l'offensive von Stedt, de septembre à décembre 1944. Mes grands-parents étaient absolument ravis parce qu'ils emmenaient aussi ma mère à la messe le dimanche, donc elle était sous bonne garde. Dear George, it was with great emotion that I addressed these few words to you 75 years after you stay in the house of my grandparents in Allemand. A year ago, we met you for the first time, and yet I feel like you have known for 60 years. Why 60 years? Because here in the Ardennes, Gouvy, my generation was raised with this painful episode of the Battle of Bastogne, the Battle of the Bulge, as you say. I was not there, but after all that I heard, it was as if, without knowing you, I already knew you. Thank you, George, for everything you did. Merci, George, pour tout ce que vous avez fait. One of my paintings.
Le tableau que j'ai offert à Georges, il représente la tempête en mer, parce que dans ce tableau, on voit la tempête. La tempête, c'est ce que les habitants ont vécu pendant les 4 années de guerre. Et ce phare, c'est la lumière. Et c'est un petit peu ce que les soldats américains, et Georges en particulier, ont apporté comme lueur d'espoir aux populations et à ma famille en particulier, puisqu'ils étaient eux aussi dans la tourmente et dans la tempête.
It's so fantastic to be a part of the reunions of these families and the soldiers, and I think it's created a very, very special camaraderie and diplomacy, actually, and I think that it's really been amazing to see how the friendships have survived.
Back then you spoke fluent French, yes?
Oh, no. I've still got the same vocabulary I did, and sometimes somewhat maybe improved a little.
Can you try a little bit for us now?
It gives me a little more. What would you like me to say?
Très bien. I think that's more French than I've heard from most World War II veterans.
Anniversaries of battles are very important because it brings to light the heroic and meritorious deeds of not only the Americans but of the other combatants who were in the service at the time we were in there.
We come back for that feeling, to experience it over and over again. And that feeling is what should not be forgotten. And that feeling, actually, I believe, can be transmitted through the generations, so that the words, "we will never forget," will actually make sense.
Where is he? Oh, my God. Are you still going? I need a nap.
What are you doing right now, Steve?
What better time to strip down, right?
You think Grandpa will get a kick out of this?
Yeah, I haven't told him a word about it.
Bonjour monsieur. Ça va bien. Et vous? Moi aussi. Vous n'avez pas moi? Je vous ai vu à la TV.
You want to stand in between the two doors?
This is yours.
Yeah.
Careful, no girl.
Yeah. Tell him. Hurry up, Steve. You're in a church.
Sorry, I got long johns on.
Hello to everybody. Unfortunately, I haven't translated that.
We want to hear your English.
Thank you. So this monument was erected in 1921. And what is written on the monument is, "For freedom and right, union make force. Glory to our heroes, Belgium and Allied." It is therefore that the monument is called Inter-Allied.
What do you think, George?
How you feel, Grandpa?
C'est un bon jour. It's my day.
I love that you're telling George's story. His life, his part in this part of World War II is one of perhaps many that have been lost and forgotten. So I think until everybody's story has been recorded, heard, told, and listened to, and read, history will never be complete.